Father in heaven, we thank you for this wonderful day. We thank you for this group of people here before you. And Lord, we ask that you lead us and guide us in the direction that we're supposed to go according to your will. Lord, we ask that you bless and watch over the employees of this district, the patients, the residents, and the board, and bless each and one of our families. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Approval of previous minutes.
Motion to approve all of the minutes from the previous meetings.
Second the motion.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. On open forum, did we circulate it?
It's out there. Did everybody sign in?
Yes.
Everybody sign that wishes to, okay?
Oh, please, babe, sorry. I did the order. Thank you, ma'am. No, address.
No one wants to? Okay, we'll move forward. The physician appointment, which is Tyson Purdy. Tyson is here and ready to go, and
August 1st.
okay, and we need to approve that.
For privileges.
Okay, entertain a motion to approve Tyson for privileges.
So moved. Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I am all in there to sign. Yes, sir.
Line item 5, departmental policies and procedures. Basically, has everyone had the opportunity to look over the calendar pertaining to,
That's number 7.
oh yeah, that's number 7. Let's see.
Normally the policies and procedures for each department are reviewed
Oh, yeah.
by the board. However, there have to be any departmental policies, so what I've done is just brought signatures into the board.
So we just need to approve the policies and procedures, and no changes have been made since last year.
We asked the department heads to look at them, if there are any changes, let us know. If there's not, then we just approve, but nothing has changed for everything. That's a part of the audit process that we go through, your audits come in, and they look at policies and procedures, and they have it fine, so.
Okay.
Changes at this time.
Okay.
Is yours a change? John?
Did you get them today?
I got 'em. Was that a change or just?
Those are new
And
three
then-
machines.
Okay.
Yeah, any discussion there? Oh.
Make a motion to approve or?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the departmental policies and procedures as is. I'll correct on that, yes.
Second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, debit cards. This is, we've kind of run into some problems on both the hospital and the nursing home. For the example that I got, Bobby needed to go to Lubbock and get something for the computer systems, and what happens if we don't have an account with certain people, then the employees will have to pay that out of their own pocket and get reimbursed. Was brought to my attention and has to be approved by the board. What we have right now is CEO David Burke is requesting 2 debit cards, and the board would need to approve that and also set a limit. The limit discussed was $2,000 a month, and we'd like to hear discussion on that.
Well, why, on any case like Bobby going to Lubbock to buy something, he would have an estimate of what it's going to cost. And why can't he take a purchase order and a check from the hospital?
We don't cut a check, like we cut checks once a week, we don't cut a check just like that. The debit card is the same thing as having cash on hand. This just occurred this last week and a half, where we needed to pay for something over the computer, ordered over the computer. And they would not send it until we actually paid for it. We could have used that debit card, the same thing as a credit card. And it's not really $2,000 a month, it's $2,000 on the card, which could be used, you might use all of it, you might use $100,
Right.
you might not use it at all. But each month it would be brought back to the board, if it was used and said, this is what we used it for.
Kind of $2,000 limit thing. Okay. And,
Which bank would that be for?
sir,
Which bank would it be?
Well, it would be First Bank where we have bank accounts, because they actually take $2,000 out of your bank account and put it on the card.
the discussions I had with David would be that he would have both cards, and the cards would be signed out to the individuals that were needing them.
So
Do we see, do they appear on a register just like the checks do back here that are written?
well, the debit card itself would show up as information in the system, and then you would be brought each time what those debit cards were used for. In other words, if Bobby once had to buy backup batteries, they go down, they can't find them locally, he goes to local, he picks them up. He has been putting them in his own charge card, and then we've been reimbursing him. So we would have to reimburse that debit card through the proper process, and that's where you would actually see that money going back into the debit card. It would be scrutinized by myself. It's not just anybody can check it out, anybody can go buy it. It would have to be pre-approved. And no more than the $2,000.
Would there be a list of purchases made with it, or a list of, like the deal here, your checks? Shows well, all the checks that are written, we could get some kind of register with it and meet.
There will be a handmade register, because once you buy it, you get an invoice. That's the way, it's the same thing as petty cash. You take petty cash out, you have to bring an invoice back and give it to, so that that can be turned into accounts payable, so accounts payable can turn around and get back to petty cash. Debit card is the same thing as petty cash. We just don't want $2,000 for petty cash. We do have petty cash, but it's not an amount of $2,000. And we use that for postage and different items like that. Can't remember exactly. Roland's used it a few times for it, and they use it over. Petty cash is reimbursed for both entities all the time. And Carolyn over in the nursing home watches the petty cash, and here Lou Ann watches the petty cash, and then turns in the receipts for the checks to be cut back to petty cash. If the receipts are right there, you will see what's bought.
Another stipulation would be that there would, no one person would be able to draw cash money out of it. It would be too tempting. So it'll be pretty secure. And I can see that there's been several occasions, and looking back over reimbursements, that there are times that we actually burden our employees by having to have them pay it out of their pocket.
Make a motion to approve these debit cards.
Do you have a limit that you want to set on that?
Oh, yes, for the $2,000 limit.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Motion approved and seconded. All those in favor? Motion carries. Now, line item 7, schedule upcoming budget, tax rate, and then the board meetings. Has everyone had the opportunity to look at the calendar for the proposed meetings?
And let me say something. When I did the calendars, I was looking at the last Thursday of September when I realized we always do the fourth Thursday, so really that was null and void. It would still be the 22nd.
Okay.
So we can cross off the 29th altogether. That was my mistake there.
Cross off what?
The date on the 29th of September, because I put it on my calendar as the last Thursday rather than the fourth Thursday. So it still would be the regular session on the 22nd. Yeah. Sorry about that.
And special session on the 11th, is that correct?
August 11th.
Actually, August 11th, September the 1st, September the 13th. Three special sessions.
There'll be quite a few meetings between here and September.
And this goes by the planning calendar that we set with the appraisal districts for the tax rate every year.
You got to have those meetings whether you change the tax rate or not, correct?
Well, before I can't remember 2001, it may not have been that long ago. If you increase the tax rate by a percentage, which was 3% we had to have, and that law has changed since, that if you collect one more dollar in revenue, and so you can leave the tax rate the same, but if you collected that $1, you're supposed to have those public hearings, because what they are looking at is the effective tax rate where you collect the same amount. And I can tell you that this year, we've already got the certified rolls, and the effective tax rate's around 39 cents, where the tax rate is at 40 cents, so there would be a need for those hearings, for sure. It's just to allow the citizens an opportunity to come in and hear the situation and discuss the situation with the board.
Is there any discussion or proposed changes?
What's your feeling on the tax rate? Are they gonna stay the same? That rate, I mean, not considering the valuation.
Yes, the recommendation will be 40 cents, to stay the same. Now, once the publication comes out, and that should actually be pretty quick, because we already have the certified rolls, you're gonna see that the effective tax rate is at 39 cents. And the rollback is 39 cents. I can't remember, I don't have it right in front of me. But that publication will reach the paper, and then the 11th, so we'll kind of get our mindset on the 11th, what you will do is you will set the proposed tax rate. It's not the tax rate, and the proposed tax rate will be the 40 cents. At that time also, we will be looking at the budgets, and we will look at the budgets on every one of these days as far as that goes. But then after that, we'll have the public hearings, opportunity for the citizens to come in and voice their opinion and whatnot. You will not actually set the tax rate until September the 22nd. That's when we will set it at, and it could be anything, but not any more than 40 cents. It could be anything in that range, but and the way the budgets are looking right now, we still need 40 cents.
And there's no intention of increasing the tax rate. Any other discussion?
Do we want to make a motion with these dates?
Yes, ma'am.
What I also need y'all to do is, I put a recommended time for each of the meetings, and I need to know if that's
Same
okay.
time?
Yes, please.
The time looks like it's at 6 p.m. on the 11th, the 25th, the 1st.
12th, I would suggest, we usually did a public hearing in the evening.
Really, the 12th should be the 13th.
Oh, there's no, sorry,
So move that.
the 13th. Boy, David.
So move that 12th over.
I didn't do that.
I did that.
I didn't know she get that.
Thank you,
I've
Vicki.
been here on that.
The one that's for September 12th really should be September 13th. Sorry. I was gonna hurry.
And on the 13th is noon okay with everybody?
And then your meeting on the 22nd, it's your regular meeting.
And on the 22nd is 6 o'clock okay with everyone?
Make a motion, we accept these dates. August 11th at 6 p.m., 25th, regular session at 6 p.m. On the 1st, at 6 p.m., Thursday. And then the 13th at 12 noon, and the 22nd at 6 p.m.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made to approve the meetings and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And David, will you give us the financial and statistical report?
Vicki was going to do that for this month. Last month I said that she would pick that up, and she may, sure, we'll let her.
Low time.
No problem.
You should have the new handouts that you got on the table, the balance sheets, everything, fix the problem, and then they wiped out all my current balances at the beginning of last year. So So we had to run it without those, and the new one, the ones on the table are actually the correct balances, so it's a little bit different on the amounts. The cash balance for the hospital was $416,612, and Parkview was $191,922. It shows up on the combined balance sheet on the page, which would be on the handout, it would only be page 16, for the total combined balance of $608,000. And net accounts receivable decreased on the hospital from $1,655,000 down to $1,294,000. And then the receivable for Parkview remained pretty constant, it only dropped a little bit. Accounts payable for the hospital dropped from $820,000 down to $696,000. And then again, Parkview was pretty constant on their accounts payable. Notes from the First Bank, they will be paid up in February of next year. The revenue from the hospital, those are from the, on page 39 and 40 for the hospital. We've actually got an operating loss of $26,000 for the hospital, but with the tax revenue gain, we've got a gain of $103,000. And the Parkview is on page 58. And it had a current deficit of $92,000, but with the year, we're back up to $59,937 on it. Balance sheets of the accounts payable for the hospital, the checks written are on page 24 through 26. And $475,000 was paid out on the hospital. And the checks written for the nursing home are on page 56 and 57. They paid out almost $97,000 expenses. Is there any questions on the,
Also, you started refunding accounts here in the hospital, and they've been put off for several years not doing that. What's changed?
The auditors have asked us to start doing that on a regular basis, and actually what you're saying right now is the current. There are people who pay in money now, and then we get reimbursement from the insurance, and so we're not going to hold that money. What happened to it, and why it's so large from times past years, is they just kept the money. They should have done that. And so from this point forward, we're going to start making those payments. We're not going to hold it for any period of time. You lose it if you don't. You lose track of it. You lose what needs to be done. So we're starting and having. We did it last month too, and this month we're going to pay as soon as it comes across. We're paying it right then, and that's what Proctor does. The auditors actually have asked us to do that. That's money that's owed back to the patients. It's not out.
Well, in the past, it hasn't been repaid, and we're having trouble coming up with the money. You answered my question.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Oh, on the balance sheet there on property, land, and property, plant, equipment, you have on land at $29,000. Does that not include property across the street?
That is the problem.
You use $29,000 to come back, do you have any other?
Well, once again, if you have any specific questions, you probably need to come by. I can't tell you, that 29,000 has been there for a long time. It's not something that just showed at this time. Problem would have been 29,000, and that's just what was reported on the books at some point in time. But it's been years that it's been that way. And I can tell you what it is specifically, but it's basically for land that has always been around. They separated the land in the building for the hospital. They did not separate that for the nursing home. I guess you noticed that it had land, so they never did break that down. That's the way it's been since.
So this land isn't referring to like where the flower shop is or over at 30s.
Again, I would have to go in and see exactly what was reported at that time to know, but I can tell you what we paid for the stuff across the street was a lot more than
Yes, sir.
$27,000.
On the profit and loss statement, the salaries has got a parentheses, bracket, is that just a misprint?
No, it's the PTO. It accrues at the end of each month and kind of reverses itself the next month. And that would just happen to fall in the wrong way, going the opposite direction as a credit this time.
The reason that's taking place is health plan does not track through PTO the same as APS did. The PTO will now be looking forward to the salary line item, and when they brought this over, the correction was to move it from the line item we call PTO into the salary, so that's why you have that credit there, is because we moved it from one line to the next. And that's because of the change in the system.
How is the change in the system going?
Anytime you bring in a new software system, and you have to understand, we brought in a complete system. New computers, new server, new software, and you always have bumps in the road. There's been some large bumps and there's been some small bumps. And we are at the present time trying to work through those and trying to make sure that all the balances are correct and that they agree. And then sometimes when you say, well, we have found this and it needs to be corrected, they attempt to correct that, and in correcting that, it might throw something else off, and that's exactly what happened to us at the first of the week. And it took a little while to go back and rehash exactly what happened, or did it happen, to bring them back in line. And we'll be doing that from the point in time we actually went live, which was in March, all the way through the end of September, preparing ourselves for when the auditors show up. The auditors have been heavily involved in this too. They know about every single problem that come across, because we've actually called them and asked them, how do you want us to handle this? Because this seems to be a problem at this point in time. And, they give us suggestions and so forth. But I don't think that the conversion itself, we can say it's been pleasant, but it's working. We're getting there. Every day we make progress and get a little more done. And this is just another one of those, what you saw is just another one of those steps that we went through to resolve some issues and some problems. And we're going to get there. But I don't want to tell you that everything's been fine.
You said that Healthland had taken your system down when you were able to recover what you lost?
Well, is what, they just wiped out those numbers, and we just had to re-input them.
The accounts receivable more than last year is probably doing more business because they haven't been able to bill because of this new system.
Actually, a combination of both. We actually had a price increase 1st of October, charge master price increase. That's another thing that's never been done in the past. They never watched their prices. They left them. In fact, 2 years ago, when the first time we had a charge master increase, was the first time it's been done in I don't know how long. And so we pay attention to that each and every year. So you see price increases, and we're going to continue to see, because we want to remain competitive with the area. It's geared toward the area, and there's certain things that we can and cannot do, and we have to we work with the auditors on that. We also work with the doctors on that. There were some price increases that the doctors disagreed with, and they felt like we were pricing them out of the work, so we lowered those prices so that we don't want to price ourselves out of the business. But the increase in the receivables is a combination of both the billing not going out, so they're going to go up, and also the price. If you look at your sheets that were your handouts, so just point out some particular instances. You can see our cash is right on target with what it was last year, which is a good sign. The reason that's a good sign is because we have put out a tremendous amount of cash in the different projects we have done. Also, our going concern that's in the audit, which we're working hard to try to remedy. I'm not going to tell you that this is going to be the year that we are able to remedy that going concern, but the main drive on that going concern was our accounts payable. And you realize the audit now is for the district, it's not just for the hospital. So we're trying right now really hard to get our accounts payable down in both areas. And you can see that the district-wise, it's at 780, but it was last year at this same time, $1,227,000. So we've done, pretty good in getting that accounts payable down, which we're working toward. Now, I'm not going to tell you the 780 is going to get the going concern in a minute, because there's other factors. But hopefully, we're going to continue to see the accounts payable drop. We may reach a plateau where it won't drop anymore, because if we're not able to, have enough cash flow, because we're very careful this time of year. This is our slow time of the year. And so the number of people in the hospital, though it has been good this week, we look at tests not being run and exams not being done. So we've got to be very careful how we spend our money. And the air conditioning has been quite a drain on us. It's probably about $75,000 right now is where we're at, and it is probably, this is my opinion, I haven't asked the air conditioning people, probably 75 to 85% complete. It is not complete at the same time. They still have a few other items. In fact, today they actually set a motor on top of the building. They're going to keep that in place and get it hooked up. And they may have completed that this afternoon. I don't know. I haven't talked to them. But there's still some fine tuning that we have to go through on that. And we're getting the chemicals run through the water system so that we will not have this problem again, which should have been done a long time ago. So, we have our regular bills that come in every single day, and payroll that comes in every single day. And we've been able to do that at the hospital, and we've been able to do that at the nursing home too. So we're well pleased where we stand both financially with the nursing home as well as the hospital. The long answer for a short question.
I can add a little bit to the air conditioning. I received a call today from Dennis Criswell, the engineer for Carrier. I've set his motor up, which is that's about an $800 motor. And what we're waiting on is a four-way valve. It's kind of a gate valve, and they quit making those years ago. So we just found a company that's actually machining it. It was supposed to be done this week, but it's going to be sometime next week before we actually get that in. I would agree that we're probably about 75–80% fixed. Still having a little bit of problems with our water softener. And we did automate our chemical injection, so the guys don't have to have any guesswork at what chemicals are going into the system. It's fully automated.
I had sort of started on, because I had down for the administrative reports to talk about the air conditioning and the health plan too. We've kind of covered that a little bit, just to let you know some of the good things, the positive things that were happening. With every company, you run into some stalemates every now and then, which have to work around them. I had intended for a carpet to be down in the hallway. It has not been done yet, but it's going to be done in the next few weeks. But if you happen to look past the door, come up here today, they have all new carpet in our outpatient clinic. That's where the kiddos are taken care of, health care. So we have the new carpet there. If you happen to go and they're not too busy, go through the clinic over there. They've done some remodeling in the rural health clinic for Tyson and his presence and so forth. So that's being done. And actually should be completed by certainly by Monday, but I think that they're probably complete right now. There might be some fine tuning there. We're having some exam tables recovered so that they won't be so, they'll kind of crack. And I get rather than buy those, we just have them recovered. And it seemed to please the doctors that we were doing that. We'll slowly be able to get some new equipment and new stuff. We're looking forward to October 1st when some of the tax money starts rolling back in. And we have a little more cash to work with. Get a lot of things out of the way. some of the things that are coming down the pike, and as I said, the hallway here will be carpeted. Lab will have a new floor, there will be new carpet installed in front of the swing bed, and if you know where the swing bed units are, right, that will have a new carpet. Also, the rooms are going to be remodeled. I can't tell you exactly to what extent. I guess it just really depends on how far the $50,000 goes, but we have to do that. And the nursing station will be completely remodeled. And that's all in the work to be completed by the end of September. That's what we're shooting for. So there's a lot of good and positive things that are taking place. I don't know if you noticed, I don't know if you're a tree person, a lot of trees have been trimmed around the building. And we got that done. Basically, that's it for, around the hospital. And over the nursing home, until we get at least the interim person in place, which should be done shortly. We have actually talked with approximately 5 different people, and what we're looking for is the interim. We're not looking for a permanent person. And we've actually met with the nursing home staff. We're going to let them know that we're not looking for a permanent person right now. We're looking for the interim, so they don't have time to really do a good search. At the time we get a pool, then we will set up I started saying audit committee, but an interview committee made up of the hospital, the nursing home, and the board, where we will sit down and interview candidates for the permanent position. I can't give you a date when that's going to take place, because right now what we've been trying to do is I've been talking with the state, and we have to give them a letter letting them know what we're doing and how we're doing it, and we have that in the process right now. It's been typed, I haven't signed off on it, send it to them. Stating exactly, that's what's interesting. They just want to know exactly what we're doing and how we're handling it, and they were fine with it. And then when, of course, the interim person shows up, and at this point in time, I can tell you the interim person is supposed to be here by Monday. I don't know that she's going to make it by Monday, but that's what we're shooting for. And she could be here one day. She could be here 1 week, she could be here 1 month. And talking with her, we've asked her to plan her schedule to be here approximately 6 months. We're going to give ourselves enough time to really look. We want to get a good pool. We want to hopefully make sure that the next administrator is the right makeup. They don't give you a whole lot of time in 30 days. Now that 30 days is where you have to have somebody in place until you can get an interim administrator, but and that could be anybody. But to replace the administrator, you have to have somebody licensed within supposedly a 30-day. They said they're not going to come out on day 31 and get you if you don't have anybody. And this individual is going to be provisionally licensed, and then we'll go from there until we get it. Now, this individual coming in, Shonda is her name. She's welcome to apply for the job. That she hadn't shown any interest in this one applying, she hadn't shown any non-applying. She knows it's just a temporary setup. She has 13 years experience in nursing home. So,
You have a resume on it where you've reviewed?
on to it.
Sure.
I've reviewed it, and I've talked to her, and she's coming up. You're welcome to see it. I don't have it with me.
Does she have a license?
She has another state license. In the process of doing that is she turns out a provisional and pays a fee, and then she can be provisionally licensed in the state of Texas. In that time, which is for 6 months. That's how long you have a provisional license. In that 6-month period, she can then apply to get her Texas license, but she's licensed in another state.
Did you get any background recommendations? Or?
We do a full check. By law, you have to. Suzanne carried out all the investigation and called all the references and checked with the nursing home. Again, she's temporary. Could be here 1 day, 1 week, be any longer than 6 months. And that's as long as a professional license works. And she may then get her Texas license and apply for the job. I don't know. She hadn't thought about that, and neither had I or anybody else. Right now, we're just trying to make sure we're covered. And we had 30 days from last Friday, so if she makes it here by Monday, then we'll be safe.
On your administrative reports, I do want to ask about the wound care. And see how much we put out. Are we getting reimbursements? Are we getting,
The
is
wound,
it profitable for us?
well, there was a question asked today about one of the departments and what kind of revenue they brought in. And it does not make what our departments make by any means. It was really close to a break even. It wasn't a month make. Dr. Lansing was the doctor who left, and none of the other doctors were interested in handling the wound care. So at this point in time, the wound care is non-existent. We have to have a doctor, and there's not a doctor who wants to do it at this point in time.
You were talking about the work being done at the clinic over, did we ever take board action to approve expenses on that clinic over there?
Those expenses for that clinic do not have to be approved by the board because it's under $25,000. It's only up $25,000 or more. Anything in a remodeling sense, and actually, I guess you could say theoretically, we were fixing to spend a lot of money on doing the whole clinic, but this was just a small remodeling job. It wasn't a humongous undertaking. Just enough room to allow ties.
And on the budget, we're going to start working on that pretty quick.
I've already been working on the budget, and will assuredly have something by the 11th for you guys to look at. It doesn't look too bad, doesn't look too good. I don't see any increases in the revenue stream right now. I'm not knowing what, unless you guys have heard that they looked at it on the debt ceiling. I have not had a chance to look on TV or check the internet or anything like that. The debt ceiling, and what they may or may not do, is going to affect Medicare and Medicaid. And it's really hard to say, we get most of our money from those two areas. It's kind of hard to say exactly what you're going to make, what you're not going to make. So to base what your expenses are. So no matter what the budgets may or may not be, to mean something very horrific after we see exactly what they're going to use for reimbursement factor calculations, see what we're coming in. But the expenses as we stand for both entities, hospital and nursing home, will not necessarily be any more than they have been. And as you can see, they've been handled appropriately in both areas. And the revenues have been pretty good in both areas, and we're hoping for continued, we get the people in the hospital wintertime, and the revenue should increase again. Summertime is rather slow, but we've had a pretty good summer too. And we've been doing the test, the lab's been working good. PT's been really busy. We have, I believe, 5 swing days in there right now. And that's good. PT's really been working hard. And nursing homes been home their own at 45 census. I think Monday at the meeting they told us it'd be 42. I don't know. Debbie's here.
We're at 41 in-house, 1 in the hospital, and I have 3 admissions in.
Okay, so they're holding their own on that too, and that's good. And hopefully with even with the interim administrator, as well as if this is a quick decision and trying to find somebody. Marketing is a big, in fact, that was one of the questions was asked. And there's not a whole lot the nursing home can do to increase the revenue outside of increase their census. And as long as Carolyn, who's done a tremendous job over there in keeping the building out. But they've been holding their own and done a good job.
the overall patient count for the hospital?
14. At least yesterday. And they had dismissals and admissions all day long, and I would check this on what they had. Which actually was a very high number for July.
Any other discussion for administrative reports? Entertain a motion to go to executive.
I'll make the motion, we go to executive.
All those in favor?
Second.
Second.
Thank you.
Any opposed? One for waiting on this, action regarding executive session.
We're going to approve
Approve it.
Oh,
report.
I entertain a motion to approve the quality management report.
So be it.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And action regarding executive session. That's it?
That's it.
Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second the motion.
All in favor? Motion carries.
We're going to